Jeff Slauson here from 19 News Now at the 19 News digital desk. It's cold. Yeah, no shocker there. However, something that is a problem when it gets this cold is many people use external heat sources, don't want to leave the house if they're going to smoke, things like that. And we see quite a few fires during this time. So we wanted to put the word out with the help from the state here. We spoke with the Fire Prevention Bureau Chief, Anita Matheny. This was an interview I did yesterday, so you'll see me in a different suit. However, the ideas are the same. Very much so needing to pay attention at a time like this, especially because if there is a situation where there is a fire in your home, it may not be the easiest for the fire crews to be able to help due to snow, ice, things like that. So being careful, being extra cautious, very much so a good thing. Let's get to our interview now. Start off with just the general kind of fire prevention nature of the winter. I feel like many people may not necessarily think of it as a time when you could have things around or instances where you have things that could be starting a fire. Talk about how dangerous this season can be potentially for fires in homes and places like that.
Oh yeah, sure. As the temperatures get colder, you have your furnaces, your chimneys, all of those things that have sat for the entire summer. You're now, using them and lighting them up, and that's a fire potential right there if they're not maintained. We try to tell everybody, just think fire prevention and just think preventative maintenance. So realistically, we want you to engage those people who do your chimney cleanings and the boiler inspectors and people who are the HVAC technicians, and just have them come in the fall time and service your systems so that they're ready to go for the winter time.
A lot of people often think in a situation, that won't be me, or it wouldn't happen to me. Something like this can happen to anybody. What are some of the more common things that you will see, that you will notice, that cause a fire during the winter?
Well, last year we had over 1,000 heating fires, and quite a few of them were set by uh, space heaters. So many of them were started by space heaters. Some of them were started by furnaces and things that just simply weren't maintained or caught fire. And then we had some of them that were started with inappropriate space heaters, things like torpedo heaters or kerosene heaters that were used indoors. And we tell people, if you decide to use supplemental heat, and that's what a space heater is, it's really supplemental heat. It shouldn't be your main heat source. But if you're using that for supplemental heat, let's make sure that, one, we choose the right space heater. All right, let's choose the ones that are actually supposed to go indoors and that don't burn a fuel that could potentially cause carbon monoxide poisoning. Number two, let's make sure that we plug them into an actual wall outlet and not into a surge protector. Those pull quite a bit of electricity, and they can heat up a surge protector or a power strip quite a bit, and they can actually cause any fires that are subsequent through those. Let's plug them into the right place. And then lastly, let's make sure that they have tip over protection and that you keep the area around them clear. If you have kids, animals, those things can get tipped over very easily. And if there's anything within a 3-foot radius of those, once they tip over, they could actually cause a fire. So tip over protection stops the heating elements and it turns the system off. And if you're keeping that clear of debris around it, then you're keeping a safe area as well.
As we do every year, we've had many fires in our area just over the past couple of weeks or so. And oftentimes in these situations, you will see the people kind of surprised by this, shocked by this, because they were just sitting at home or, out at work, something like that here. I do want you to just touch on, more generally, the idea of this being kind of universal. This is something that everybody needs to pay attention to. This is something that can happen to anybody at any time, even sometimes regardless of how careful you can be.
Oh yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. Honestly, I just had an electrician at my house this morning because I lost power in a couple outlets and I had no clue why, and it was just from Christmas lights. There was one plug that was slightly exposed, and the winds and the snow that we had on Saturday tripped that GFCI. It can happen to anybody. One small thing that you forget to do, or some high winds and large snow accumulation, or even rain can cause electrical disturbance or problem that could subsequently cause a fire. And it's not just because you have an older home, or you have something that maybe isn't a multi-million-dollar home. It happens to every single person, regardless of where you live, or what your income is, or what kind of home you live in. It doesn't matter. It's just life. So when these temperatures hit, we just need to really be safety minded. If you can take 30 seconds a day and just put fire prevention in your mind for 30 seconds a day, I think the state would be amazed at how many lives we could actually save.
When it comes to those older homes that you mentioned there, obviously, again, it can happen to anybody. When it comes to those older homes, is there a more typical thing that is the cause in those homes, and something more typical that people can watch out for?
Well, I think it's just the need to heat the home in general. I don't think it necessarily is related to the age of the home. I think it's related to how people decide to heat a home that may be drafty. So there are things that you could do in those drafty homes. You can put some plastic up on the windows, to secure that airflow, cover your vents, put some door stops in front of the doors. There's some really practical things that you can do that just helps retain the heat in your home. Minimize the doors that you're coming in and out of, and try to make it only one door and keep that, kind of secluded from the rest of the house. Just some really practical steps to keep the house from losing air. And then when you have to supplement that heat, you're not doing it at such a rate that it could cause a fire. So I think practically, let's just work on restoring and storing the heat that we have, so that we don't need to use that much supplemental.
Yeah, because I feel like oftentimes I'll do interviews like this, and it'll be, oh, these are a lot of the preventative measures that you can do. Well, right now we're in it, right? We're in the cold, we're in the snow. So something like that, making a world of difference. I mean, that's something that can be done right now. You can take a handle on that right now, right?
Absolutely. The other things that we see people trying to heat up their pipes with torches and air conditioner, or excuse me, and heaters, and hair dryers, and kerosene heaters, and it's just a really bad idea. Okay, it's just a really bad idea. Once that heats up so much, there are articles around those pipes, and it's going to catch fire. So we really would tell people, call a plumber and just say, hey, what's the best way to keep my pipes from freezing? Using some heat tape or some insulation, things like that. Just practical methods. But I think it's worth saying also to make sure that we have smoke alarms that are working in our homes, because should the unsavory happen and there is actually a fire, then those smoke alarms are going to give you minutes that could save your life of early notification.
One thing I do love to hit on as well when we discuss these types of things is how to help potential fire crews that are trying to help you. What are some things that people can do to make it easier on them if the emergency does arise?
If you do have a fire in your home, early notification is absolutely number one. Number two is, don't go back in the home for things. Get out, get your family out as quickly as possible, and then let the fire crews know if everybody's out of the house or not, and just try to keep a clear path for them. I think is the first three priorities. But your safety is always the number one concern. So, if you do experience a fire, again, have working smoke alarms in your home so you can have that early notification. But just get out and let the fire crews do what they do.
How difficult can it be for crews to get to the fire hydrants or additional water sources when it is really cold and really bitter like this?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it is tough to get water. They can have some freezing pipes and such, but typically the hydrants are a large enough main to where they don't necessarily freeze. But the firefighters themselves, dealing with water in these sub-zero temperatures, they're going to have a lot of problems with ice and just trying to stay warm during it. So, it's just better that we don't let the fire happen in the first place.
I only have about two more questions for you, I promise, before I do let you go here. The outlook that we've seen, at least this year, or the information you've gotten this year, does it seem like people are starting to heed some of the warnings? Have you noticed either an increase or a decrease in the issues that we've been having? How have the numbers looked, and how has it looked, period, across the state over the last few years?
Well, this year it's a little too early yet to analyze that data. We're still collecting in December and January incidents, so we won't know that for a few months. But I can tell you that our numbers in general are staying pretty steady. So we would like to see them go down more. We need more people to heed those fire prevention messaging and have those working smoke alarms, have the working carbon monoxide alarms, and just really thinking about preventative maintenance to their heating systems and using some fire safety mentality when they're choosing their heaters and supplemental heating.
And then the last question I have for you, when, if ever, this weather does end and we get potentially the sun, I don't know if anybody's heard of it, would be nice to see that again. If that does happen, is that when you suggest people to maybe go out and give a full look to a lot of their things to make sure everything's structurally sound? Would that be something to do now? I mean, like, when's the best kind of idea to do that? Is it as soon as things start to clear up a bit and as soon as things start to warm up a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said to just being present in the moment and aware of what's going on around you. And if something doesn't look right, it probably isn't. I've heard a lot of people say that, well, I thought there was something wrong before the fire started. And there's something to be said with people's guts reaction. If you think that something's wrong, it probably is. So investigate it and take time to look at it. After all this ice does go away, then absolutely we should be checking out the structural integrity of your home, the roofs, making sure that your heating elements are good, and just making sure that we call the professionals to come in and maintain those when necessary.
Anita, you answered all my questions here. Is there anything we didn't touch We
on?
We will cut it off at that point, but a lot of great information here. I wanted to hammer on to the point of a lot of people just assume it's not going to happen to them. This is a victimless crime. This is not a victimless crime. This is a non-discriminatory crime. It can happen to anybody, so it is very important to make sure that you are keeping yourself and your family safe. All right, that is it for this story. We're going to have much more to come on 19 News starting at 10 o'clock over on WUAB. See you there. For now, I'm Jeff Slauson with 19 News. Have a great day and a great night. Much more to come, both on air and online.
19 News, now streaming on Samsung Smart TV. Search for channel 1035.